which is quite amusing because when it flashes up, it's like lighter fuel. It doesn't burn really. It's like when you put brandy on a Christmas.
Yeah.
Psh. But it does frizz your eyebrows and your hair if you're in the way. So anyway, the first couple of batches we did together, and then once we got into the hang of it, I do mine at home now.
Do you? So how long have you been doing that then?
Well, I only started taking it just before last Christmas.
Right.
And I've only been making it myself for about 6 months. But the thing is, I'm not making it to sell. Yeah. And if I have any spare, which it just depends what you've got and how you use it, and I just give it to people who've got cancer.
Aww.
I just give it them. I was sending 20 grams up to my mate in Brighton because she's got a tumour at the back of her eye.
Wow. And was it helping, Carolann?
Yeah. Because people tell me that the sleep improves, and if you can't sleep, you can't heal.
You can't heal.
So even with sleeping pills and stuff, it's too many chemicals when you put them, and this is just totally natural. There's no chemicals in it at all, because what you strip the solvent from your vegetation with, it totally evaporates.
Right.
And there's a procedure when you get to the end of the process where you just flick a little bit of water in, that steams up.
Yeah.
And it takes the rest of the solvent with it.
Right.
So you end up with some really thick stuff that looks like Marmite.
Right, brilliant. And what do you do? Just swallow it, eat it?
Well, you can have it in all kinds of ways. I mean, you can smoke it if you want to.
Right.
But it's not as effective on your inner diseases if you smoke it. It'll help you sleep, and it will probably make you feel quite happy.
Yeah.
But it won't actually touch your disease. You have to eat it for it to do that.
So wow.
And there's a guy with prostate cancer. I'm not going to name any names because you probably know all these people. Guy with prostate cancer who has it. Another one of my friends has got 2 people, a sister and a good friend, that have it. There was one of my granddaughter's friend's mum. I gave her 6 grams and she followed the protocol. It lasted her about a month, and her bowel cancer was gone.
I've heard loads of great things about this cannabis oil.
So I make it, and if people come to me and say, oh, so-and-so has just been diagnosed, and they're really worried and they want to try this, I'll give them a couple of grams to try. Yeah. Because it's not for everybody, like any medicine.
Yeah.
And if they're all right on it, I just say, come back and I'll give you 5 grams. And I'd do them in little disposable syringes so we measure out better.
Yeah. Oh, go on, girl.
But I'm not there making a profit, you see.
Yeah.
I don't want to make a profit. All I want to do is help people who was in my situation.
Yeah, because you've lived with it for it's a long time
since '99, yeah. And I had 8 years remission.
Yeah.
After I finished the chemo and everything last time. It fucks your life up.
Yeah.
It proper takes over. You can't do anything that isn't related to your illness.
Has the cannabis oil changed that this time then?
Yeah. I feel a lot better on the cannabis oil. And I will not listen to doctors again because they don't know what they're on about.
Yeah.
The only people I've not told my oncologist because I want to keep on being able to have a scan every 3 months.
Yeah.
If I told my oncologist I was taking that and I felt like it was curing me, they'd take me off the programme.
Right.
Because I'm self-medicating.
Okay, yeah.
And the thing about it is that if people are having chemo and they're reacting really badly to it, if they take the cannabis oil, it kind of reverses some of the effects of the chemo.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, for example, it settles down the nausea.
Right.
And it gets rid of the headache.
Right.
And you can sleep better. So even though you're having chemo, which is a very invasive poison, it kills cancer cells, but it kills everything else as well.
Yeah.
You can for example, it killed all my the white cells in my blood, I had neutropenic collapse. I was in hospital 10 days.
What does neutropenic?
It's when you've got no white cells to protect you from
Oh, of course,
infection.
you've got no immune system.
Exactly. So I had 10 million infections when I went in there.
And you're in the right place to get infections in the hospital.
And they were, I don't know, I don't know if they were short of beds or what, but I found myself on the terminal ward. And there was little old ladies lost their mind to dementia, cancer in the brain, sending them round the twist, shouting and bawling all night long. People, every other day somebody died. So it didn't really do a lot for my state of mind.
Yeah.
But I was more determined to get out of there than anything else.
But it might have done then, in a negative, positive way, to see something so negative. Makes you, like, no, this isn't fucking my lot.
Yeah. So that was when I thought to myself, right, I am absolutely refusing chemo. I'm never having it again, ever.
Are you not?
No. So when I got diagnosed this time with the metastatic, because obviously it's spread now.
Yeah.
Two things. I thought I was quite lucky because it was in my bones and it's easy to spot in your bones, right? If it had been somewhere in soft tissue, it's a lot harder to deal with. Liver, bowels, stomach, anywhere. It's just the luck of the draw. If you've got metastatic cancer, it's just the luck of the draw where it lands, and it could land anywhere.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, I'm lucky it's in my bones, because my bones collapsed and I had to have 3 vertebrae taken out of my neck. However, modern science being what it is, they rebuilt me with titanium.
Bionic woman.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy with that. I mean, I don't like the way that it's disabled me at all. Like, I've got a stiff neck. My mobility is very restricted. My strength is down to 0. I've got no stamina whatsoever. But, I'm still here.
You look well.
You know what I mean? And I don't really give a shit.
Right, juxtaposing. Moving on.
Yeah.
Tell me about the first night you ever went in the Reno.
The first time I ever went in the Reno wasn't even a night.
Go on.
My mum was working there as a barmaid, and at 17, she thought I was too young to be going in the Reno. Notwithstanding the fact that I'd just had a child, so I thought I was a proper grown-up. In my mum's eyes, I was still a child, even though I had a child. But, they started doing this thing on a Sunday afternoon where you could go down there, the guys could go down and play dominoes and poker or whatever they played in the little gambling room. You could get a dinner because they had a kitchen and a chef.
Right.
And they put on a little show.
What year are we talking about, Carolann?
We're probably talking about 1971.
Okay.
Yeah. The first year that the Moss Side Carnival kicked off properly.
Oh, okay.
They had one in 1970, but it was only a little small community thing. But the following year, they did a parade and everything. So,
wow.
And it kind of progressed from there. And my son was just a baby, But I went down there with my partner, my son's dad, and Persian was quite accommodating. And he would play James Brown, and he would play the Rolling Stones if Dennis asked him nicely. So that was all good. So we used to go down there on a Sunday afternoon as a couple, and just have a little jig and mix with the old people. And have something to eat and then go home. The first night I went, I remember what I was wearing as well. My mum had several friends that were transvestites and strippers, right? Because she used to work in the Union pub in the late 60s when Walter was the landlord. I I spoke to Tom, he remembers Walter and the Union, and Leon.
Yeah, I remember Leon. I don't remember Walter.
Oh, Leon was the little fat white guy that owned it. Leon,
Walter was.
Yeah. And
yeah, Leon's the black guy with the Stetson.
Yeah, Leon worked behind the bar.
Oh, I do remember him.
Yeah.
And Walter. Yeah, go on.
And there was another barmaid called Diamond Lil. She always used to wear a man's suit with a really fancy waistcoat.
Right.
And my mum was kind of having a fling with Lil at the time.
Okay.
But then when she started working in the Reno, she kind of like got into blokes again. She didn't have a lot of taste or insight with a lot of her relationships. But anyway, moving on. So the first night I went, my mum had said to me that this stripper, she was a midget, this woman. What was her name?
The stripper was a midget?
The stripper was a midget. That was her gimmick. She was only 4'6" or something like that. Well, I'm not that much taller myself. Apparently, if you're under 5 foot, you're a midget.
No, there's someone who's shorter than there's someone who's...
If you're under 3 foot, you're a dwarf.
Oh, is that right?
Apparently.
That's the strategy.
That's it, yeah. So anyway, she'd got a load of these little strippers' outfits.
Oh...
I was like,
Carolann, that's not what we wore.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh my God, let me tell you what I wore. I wore a long purple with a hood, halter neck, so the back was out.
Yeah.
And it had a hood, the back was out, and it was up here with the halter neck.
Oh, proper Morticia.
It had one sleeve, and the other sleeve was cut away.
And
it was figure hooded right down to the ground. Like a maxi dress.
Yeah.
And that was what I wore the first time I ever went to the Reno.
And where did you get this dress?
Off my mum. She got all these clothes off this stripper.
Oh, I'm getting it. I'm getting the circle. So you wore right, okay. So you wore a midget stripper outfit.
Yeah.
That's purple with one sleeve and a high neck, all the back out and a hood.
Yeah. And that's what
but is that
it was down to the ground, it was a maxi dress.
Yeah.
But you see, after me and my sister and a couple of our mates had kind of decided that the Reno was our place because it was local.
Yeah.
You could stagger home, you didn't need to get a taxi, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we decided that was our place. My sister was friends with Anne Proudfoot at the time.
Right.
And there was another girl, an Asian woman called Jenny, I think her name was Janelle or Janella or something like that. She was called Jenny for short. And there was a lot of, I didn't have as many girlfriends as my sister did.
Right.
I was more mates with the blokes.
Okay.
So I knew more of the guys, my sister knew more of the girls. But we decided that I was quite handy with the sewing machine. We decided we were making a new outfit every time we went down there.
This is what I remember about you.
So we used to go down there, check this out.
Go on.
We just discovered spandex.
Oh no.
Which is a bit like lycra, but a bit thicker.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh yeah, this is really good, this stretchy shit. So we used to make hot pants.
Oh no. Spandex
hot pants.
Go on, Carolann.
Tight fitting, dead flared at the bottom. Low cut like that with a big
hipsters,
thick belt.
Proper hipsters.
Like the proper
the
proper 60s look.
Blaxploitation.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And little belly tops.
Yeah.
With,
I wish I'd seen
long
these.
sleeves like
Go
this.
on.
Oh my God, we had a ball, and we just used to I'd just make a new outfit every weekend. We went down there and set the scene a bit.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It was cool because I'd only just progressed from the hippie scene in town. I used to go to the Magic Village and Detra and all them kind of hipster places like underground, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody knew about it and all that. And I was friends with Kathy Achusad because I met her at the Magic Village.
Right.
And I was very impressed with her.
Go on, why?
She had a massive afro, right? and she was wearing a blue bikini.
Never.
With a white net curtain over the top.
Go on, girl.
She made it look like a kind of a Roman toga.
Right, yeah.
But you could just see the blue underneath.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh my God, I want to be like her.
Yeah. That's what I thought about you. That's what I thought about you. I want to be like her.
So, yeah, it was good. So we used to go down there. And I dated quite a few of the guys.
Oh, go on then.
Serious,
Gossip, come on.
When my relationship with my baby's father finished, it was about 1976 or something like that.
Yeah.
It started hitting the skids a bit because there was a massive heroin taking population. It was not nice the way it kind of snuck up on us. And it was like the young people didn't want to smoke weed anymore.
Is this what Dennis got into?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Dennis was a functioning addict.
Okay.
Which meant that it was like having diabetes.
Okay. And that's what split you up, Carolann.
I couldn't stand to see him destroying himself, basically. It was too painful for me because I really, really loved him.
Oh.
And I couldn't watch him. And plus, my son was getting to an age where he was starting to notice things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
so how long had you been together by then?
About 8 years.
Oh.
Because I met Dennis in 1968.
Right.
When I was just turned 15.
Oh.
But we didn't get together until I was 16 and a half. Because he already had a girlfriend, but I got rid of her.
Oh no, you got to tell me this story. Come on, how did you get rid of the girlfriend?
Right. Dennis would not entertain me because he said that I was only 12 and I needed to get home to my mum.
Right.
And I wasn't. I was a big girl. I was 15.
Right.
I'd already been left home a year.
Oh, okay.
And I was living with my auntie Glennis. She wasn't really my auntie, but we used to call them, all my mum's friends were aunties and uncles.
Everybody did that.
So anyway, I'd been living with Glennis for a year. I drifted around a little bit and ended up living in a big house, a big shared house in Cheetah Mill with about, 6 other people.
Right.
It was a pretty unusual thing then. It's not so unusual now.
No. Yeah, no, I know what you mean, actually, yeah.
So we all lived in this big shared house. We each had a room, but the downstairs rooms were communal, the kitchen and everything else. And I can't remember ever paying any bills or paying any rent. I suppose we must have paid something at some point.
Not unless it was a proper squat.
I don't think it was a squat because we was there a long time.
Go on,
mind you, I didn't worry my little head with those.
No, exactly, and that's the right time for squats, though. You know, that movement of hippie.
Yeah.
Go on then.
It might have been a squat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was sitting in Detra one Saturday late evening. It was late. It was December. I was going to be 16. My next birthday, which was after Christmas.
Yeah.
So I was still 15, and I'm sat there, and the archway was like this, and the stairs went up, and I saw these feet, and then these legs, and then these ripped jeans, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I'm looking. And this person gradually descended down these stairs. And even though it was December, he did not have a shirt on.
What a show off. Go on.
He was wearing...
Just a waistcoat.
He was wearing a leather jacket.
Yeah.
No, tell a lie. A leather coat.
Yeah.
That he turned inside out and ripped the lining out of.
Right.
So it was suede now.
Okay.
And the leather was inside.
Oh, okay.
He'd ripped the sleeves out.
Yeah.
And then he shredded the rest of the coat. So it looked like a giant fringed waistcoat.
Wow.
And I looked
I'd have noticed him.
I thought, whoa, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
He was only young. He was only 21.
Yeah.
So he was quite fit. Like a 21-year-old would be. And then I saw his face and I just thought, I'm having him.
Oh, what girl?
Or something like that.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
15-year-old head.
Yeah.
Because he had the biggest orange afro I've ever seen. And it was not a pale, freckly redhead. He was very lightly bronzed.
Okay.
And he didn't have freckles.
Right.
And he had a little beard, a little tash.
Bloody hell, man, he sounds super cool.
I was well impressed and I thought,
yeah.
Anyway, but he had a girlfriend.
Okay.
I got to know him. He came to live at our house.
Oh.
So that was all good. So we lived downstairs, and because he didn't have a room yet, he slept just in a sleeping bag downstairs.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend was some posh Jewish bird from up Cheetham Hill.
Right.
Dad had what was it? Dad had a factory that used to make a product called Pack-a-Mac.
Oh, that used to fold all down.
The plastic Mac in the little plastic bag. And the rain hoods.
Yeah, I loved them when I was little. I couldn't go anywhere without one of them in my bag when I was little. Go on.
Well, her dad was the guy that made them.
But he must have been fucking loaded beyond belief.
Exactly. They were pretty rich and she had a car and everything.
Yeah.
So it was easy for her to snag a lad from Hull who'd only been in Manchester a year. You know, with no money, no job, no nothing going
style.
on. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, I can't stand her. She's a fucking dickhead. She was always trying to make him wear normal clothes and stuff, you know, and saying, come and meet the folks and wear this. No. Anyway, so one morning, I knew she was coming and I knew Dennis had been out the night before.
Okay.
I knew he was sleeping downstairs in his sleeping bag. So this was my plan. I snuck downstairs and zipped open his sleeping bag and got in it.
I knew you.
And I got in it and I snuggled up like this right next to him and zipped it back up again. Right? He was flat out. He didn't even notice. He didn't even notice. So I'm there like that, thinking, right, any minute
That's
now.
proper dastardly. Yeah.
And she walked in and opened the door and I went,
Gee.
Hi. And she saw Dennis's big fluffy red hair sticking out because he was out of it.
Yeah.
And I've just gone, hi. And she went,
oh.
And ran off.
Oh, woman.
So I got out the sleeping bag then. And
so you never told him?
No. I woke Dennis up and I said, oh, your girlfriend's just been, but she's gone again. And he went, oh, I better go and find her. And I went, nah, she's drove off. She might come back later. And he went, oh, all right then. Never seen her again. Never seen her again.
And she never asked him? She never questioned him?
No, she just got off.
So
I mean, I don't know what went on, whether they had a big blow up or met again or what. No
well, she's never going to believe that you just got in the... No matter what he said, she's never going to believe that you just got in the sleeping bag. I fucking certainly wouldn't believe that.
Anyway.
So go on, how did you do your next move then? Because that's got me deferred. How have you got...
Right, what I did then was, I said to Dennis, I think that we should be together. And he said, but you're only 12. And I went, no, I'm not. I'm 16.
Right.
And he went, prove it. I had a provisional passport, you know, the little paper one.
Yeah.
Because we used to get the 1 year passport. So
we did, The
paper
one.
Yeah.
I
had one of those.
Right.
And I showed it him. And the only reason I had that was because, honest to God, I had so many problems getting in places.
Oh,
because
it
didn't look old enough that I had got that deliberately just so that I had ID, which was unusual in them days.
Yeah.
Because you could send your kids to the corner shop for 10 fags.
No, I worked in an off licence. 2 off licences at 12, actually.
You see what
behind the bar.
So it wasn't unusual, but I had to prove to him how old I was. So, you know, we lived quite happily together in the squat.
Yeah.
For about 6 months. and then I got pregnant.
Yeah.
And then I told my mum, and she said, "Oh, all right then, so what are you going to do about it?" And I said, "Well, I want Dennis to come and live with us." And she said, "Do you love him?" I said, "Yeah." So she says, "Right, let's go and get him then."
Oh.
So we went and crashed this party where Dennis was with all these hippies. A guy called Sinbad, another guy called Eugene, who was a Polish lad. Campus Christmas. And a couple of other people. Roger Eagle was there because he used to run the Magic Village, and he had like wall-to-wall vinyl. Every single record you could even imagine. He had his whole room was walled with vinyl, and he was just a massive collector. And who else was there? There was a guy who ran a thing called the Lifeline Trust. It had just started up.
Yeah.
The Lifeline Trust. Just, it was...
so it's a proper, like...
Yeah.
The in-crowd party, isn't it? You know, of activists and that type of thing of their day.
And the Magic Village was brilliant because where it was right facing the Corn Exchange. There was a big department store called Louis Gross. Louis Gross. Yeah. The Magic Village was in the basement.
Yeah.
So it was a labyrinth, and there was loads of like arched entrances and little cubby holes and whatnot. So we had the little cubby hole that sold food. Another one where you could get the underground magazines like the IT and the Oz.
Yeah.
And all them ones that were banned.
Yeah.
So you could buy your magazines. There was another little cubby hole where you could go buy posters and love beads.
Oh, you bugger. I'm just that bit too young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have been about 10.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And then there was the bigger area with the stage, and I saw T-Rex there.
Wow.
Before they even got a recording contract.
Yeah.
I saw Country Joe and the Fish.
Yeah.
I saw Greasy Bear and loads of other, like, monk groups that were just... There was a guy called, what was he called? Paul Stone. An Asian guy, had a big beard, and he was only young, he was only about 18, but he was Asian, he was very hairy, had a massive beard.
Yeah.
And he played a wicked guitar. Wicked. And his grandparents brought him up. They lived on just the bottom of Burton Road in them posh flats.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they were posh then, I don't know if they're posh now.
Yeah.
But we thought they were dead posh.
No, I remember.
And do you know what his habit was?
What?
His name was Mark Stone. Oh my God. Anywhere he could, he would meditate.
Oh, okay. Going with his Asian look.
Oh, right. He'd strip off.
Naked?
First. Totally bollock naked. In company, as soon as he felt comfortable, off came the gear, and he'd be sat there like this, meditating.
Yeah.
With fuck all clothes on. But people were that used to him.
Yeah. But that was the time for that, though, wasn't it? Let's, make an impression, do what you want.
Exactly, exactly. And he was an absolutely wicked guitar player.
Yeah.
Very, very talented. And that was the kind of people he used to knock about with. But the trouble was, round about 74, 75, a lot of heroin had made its way into Manchester. And it was just bad news, man, because we'd already had a massive scare. Right at the beginning of 1971, there was some really, it was either really impure or very, very pure. Okay. But for whatever reason, the heroin users were dropping like flies.
Oh, wow.
There was a big thing in the newspaper, one of the Sunday newspapers wanted to do a big, like, expose on it because the police were trying to track down the suppliers and that. And there at least half a dozen people died.
I think I vaguely remember that. What year did you say again?
It was about 1971, 1977.
I think I vaguely remember that because it was one of them scary things, as if the world's getting taken over.
Exactly.
When you're like my age then. Yeah. I would have been about 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very scary.
Yeah.
And honest to God, all of Dennis's friends just died.
Wow.
There was a guy called Mickey Hennessy, he was only 19, a massively talented piano player.
Yeah.
You used to play boogie woogie piano in the Claremont, in the pub.
Yeah.
And it was a little skinny hippie boy with long hair like this and quite a big nose. You could hardly see his face. And he'd shuffle in and he'd sit down and he'd be playing some tunes, because you could do that then.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he'd go and end up doing like Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
He was really talented, and he got an infection in the injection site and ended up dying from septicemia.
Right.
There was another lad called Joey, and he overdosed and died. And there was a girl called Carolann. She was called Dilly for short. She was addicted to codeine linctus, which is cough medicine. You can't get it now; it's been banned.
Yeah.
But it rotted all her teeth away because the sugar content in the linctus was very high, and she had no front teeth here. And she died. I am not joking. Sat up against the wall like this, just like this, with her head on her knees. And people was walking past her, didn't even notice she was dead.
Where was this?
This was at an attic flat, number 1 Grosvenor Road, where Billy Morgan lived. And Billy Morgan, his girlfriend was also a Jewish girl, and her dad, you remember the inflatable furniture?
Yeah.
Her dad made that.
Wow.
Her dad was famous for that inflatable furniture that everybody had then. We all wanted it, didn't we?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
And the thing was, you couldn't have it if you were a smoker, because a lot of people smoked Sputnik. They'd fall on your furniture and you'd gradually go.
I remember it was it 7 miles out, that kind of like hippie shop in Stockport?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, with all the inflatable furniture.
Yeah. And the 8th Day was just starting up then as well.
Yeah. That what I thought it was about 78, but it's not. It's earlier,
it was just starting up, and it was a clothes shop.
Yes.
When it first started.
Yeah.
And it was very good. But it didn't really kick off until about 78, 79, when they started doing food and they all cooperated and stuff like that.
So no, I want the gossip. So go back. So Dennis is on heroin.
Well, he was, at the time, he wasn't using the needles.
Okay.
What they used to do was smoke it.
Yeah.
And they called it chasing the dragon.
Yeah.
Because they'd put it on foil and burn it, and it'd kind of scoop across the silver foil like that. So you'd try and, you know what I mean?
Oh, what that is, because I've never seen it. Go on.
Yeah, so they called it chasing the dragon, but the trouble with that was, I kicked him out.
Okay.
And I said, you are not doing that in the house, we've got a child.
Yeah.
Because obviously we'd got our own little place by then. What happened was, when we lived in Wellington Street, the compulsory purchase thing, that just ruined the whole community. We got kicked to sale, me and Dennis.
Oh, okay.
And I'd already had experience with rehousing and relocation back in the flipping 60s, when they pulled our street down and we all moved to Whitefield. I was about 13 when that happened. So I already knew it was going to be shite. They moved us into this horrible little fucking ground floor flat with black mould everywhere. My kid always had a cold and a bad chest.
Yeah.
In the end, Dennis said, fuck it, we're moving back to Moss Side.
Yeah.
I can still remember our address. Number 5 Lingfield Avenue. It was a horrible little flat. It's probably still there. I think one of my cousins lives there now. Anyway, we moved back. We moved into Caythorpe Street when Nikki was
That's where I know you from.
We moved into Caythorpe Street and Nikki was about 2.
Yeah.
So we were going to the Reno on a Sunday afternoon, and we was having our little Sunday gigs and things. But the underbelly of it all was this horrible heroin thing that was going on.
Yeah.
Billy Morgan ended up dying.
Yeah.
And I really thought he would be the last person to die, really.
Yeah.
Another guy called Brian Stubbs. He was another heroin user. But he was like Dennis, he was functioning.
Yeah.
He had a job and
he
just had a fix every morning and every night. And because they ended up not doing it to get high, but doing it to just stay normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When drugs take your system over like that,
yeah.
you can't do without it because it ruins you. You're all over the place. So he had a job. Him and his mate from across the road, a black guy called John Mead. Me and his mate, Mrs. Edna, were good friends. And we used to take all our kids out together. She had 2 little kids. And he had a lock-up in Cheetah Mill with John.
Yeah.
And they used to fix washing machines
and
hoovers and stuff like that. John taught him to drive.
Yeah.
And our very first car was a Triumph Herald open top sports car.
Fucking hell, man.
That he paid 50 quid for.
Wow.
50 fucking quid.
Yeah.
For an open top Triumph Herald sports car. I was like, whoa. I mean, I didn't know anything about cars. I just thought, oh, it's a really nice car, this. It's nice. It was not as modern as his mate's Capri.
Oh, Capri.
Do you remember the Capri? Well, his mate had, I think it was either red or orange.
Yeah.
His mate was called David Southworth. And he was funny as fuck.
Yeah.
He was one of the funniest people I've ever met. His wit was so dry. He had us in stitches all the time. And we'd get all our mates together and we'd go down to Lime Park or Daisy Nook and have days out. Yeah. And I'd make a tuna bake. I think I invented tuna bake. And we'd take some sausages and bread and, you know, and just have a great time. And at the time, before all this fucking health and safety ruined our lives, you could go to Daisy Nook and you could pay a £5 and get a horse for the day.
Oh, right.
So we got a horse for the day.
Yeah.
We had 4 kids on this one horse.
Yeah.
We were just leading it along with the kids on. Found somewhere to have the picnic, tied the horse to a tree, had our picnic and then went back. And both Dennis and I and our Nicky went every week to Daisy Nook and got horses out. And I can ride a horse like a demon.
Yeah.
And our Nicky can. And not that you'd know it. Because when Nicky got older, he was about 15, 16, he was kind of losing the interest in horses a little bit. So he'd just sit on the horse, roll a spliff and let the horse out, eat a bit of grass and do what he wanted, basically. And I was like, Nicky, you've been having lessons since you were 5, get a grip. And he'd be like, yeah, whatever, let the horse have its day, man. It probably works its bollocks off from morning till night. Let the horse relax, he said. And he'd be sat on his horse's back just smoking a spliff and looking at the trees. And I'd be going, come on, you know, doing it all right.
Being all proper.
Oh, funny as fuck. And we had some good times. We really did have some good times. But then the horrible heroin thing started again. People started dying again. And I told Dennis I couldn't handle it anymore. My child was starting to notice things. We agreed to separate.
Okay.
It was kind of very amicable because we didn't argue.
Yeah.
We never argued. We didn't argue, we didn't fight. He was one of the most domesticated, lovely people you could hope to meet. But drugs change people and it makes them not care about anything other than getting that and experiencing that.
Yeah.
And it'd be horrible because he'd be there dead normal, washing the pots, doing his share of the housework, which is one of the things I really loved him for. And all of a sudden he'd sit down and he'd just go like that. And I'd be like, when did you do that? Right. How did I not notice you doing that?
Wow.
And now he's gouching in the fucking sofa for the next 2-3 hours. And I'd be slapping his face and trying to bring him round. And I'd be saying things like, well, where's the bloody fun in that?
Yeah.
At least if you have a drink, you feel merry, you can have a good time.
Yeah.
Then you might fall asleep for a couple of hours. But with that, you have that and then nothing else happens. You just go like that. And you're out of the picture. And I just couldn't see the attraction. I couldn't see what was so brilliant about it. I didn't understand it and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So in the end, we agreed to separate. And Dennis ended up living with me mum. Because because he was friends with all my brothers.
Yeah.
He'd been in our family for 8 years.
Yeah.
My mum loved him. My brothers thought he was a great mate.
Yeah.
When he had nowhere to go, he went and lived with my mum. It was cool. And he was a friend of the family, and we were still friends, even when I'd met someone else and had another child. And when I got the phone call of Carmen Jones, Carmen Ricketts at the time, because she hadn't married Leroy yet, and she said, oh yeah, she had married Leroy at this point. She phoned me up and said, Carolann, I've got some really bad news. And my second child was about 3 years old at the time. And she said, Dennis is dead. I was fucking devastated.
Aww.
Even though I'd moved on and I'd had another child, and I was in a totally different situation with a job. I was driving. I lived in a posh house in Chorlton. When Carmen rang me up and told me Dennis had died, I was fucking devastated. I was devastated. It was just really, really hard to take, because at the time, we used to bump into each other now and again, you know, because by this time he was living in Blackfriars, down by Victoria bus station. Yeah. And he had a girlfriend and all this and that. And he'd really got over a really bad hump in his life. He'd got over that. And his son was doing well. Nicky was just getting himself into the music scene. Yeah. And it was sad, because I didn't know this at the time. Nicky was about 16, 17. He'd left school. He was getting into the underground music scene. And he'd been on TV a couple of times already. Yeah. And they had this little underground show, Channel 4 it was, called Snub. Yeah. And then there was another little show that they had called Stush. And Nicky was on both of them, you know, just talking shit about what he does and stuff like that. And it would have been really, really nice for Dennis to have lived long enough to see Nicky doing well and be proud of him. Yeah. But as it was, I didn't know this at the time, but Nicky used to be in town and he'd be wandering around talking to people and saying, oh, hi, have you seen my dad? Do you know where my dad is? He was really wanted to find his dad, so because he didn't know where Dennis lived, he was always moving around. And at this point, I think things were rapidly going downhill for him again. He'd got over. Is it
drugs again?
Yeah, it was drugs again. And what had happened was he was a functioning addict, so he didn't mainline, and there was no physical signs. He would inject himself between his toes or on the back of his leg, or, you know, that big vein in your groin. And it was that pure heroin again. Okay. He just overdosed. And because the heroin was purer than what he was used to. So he's thinking he's getting the same usual amount, but it's twice as pure. So you've got twice as much. And his tolerance for drugs was fucking incredible. At one point, there was some sleeping tablets called Mandrax. He could take about 10 of them and still talk to you. So I was really surprised that he'd overdosed. But when we finally got the coroner's report, it wasn't the heroin that had killed him, it was the heart failure. His heart. All those years of having that stimulant in your body, it weakens your heart.
Okay, of course.
And because the heroin was a bit purer than he was used to, his heart couldn't take the strain and he died of heart failure.
Yeah, the extra pumping, the extra use of it.
Yeah, so, and it was horrible because we couldn't claim his body because we weren't blood relatives. The only relative was Nicky. And Nicky was 16.
Right.
He was barely old enough to sign the papers. The coroner put an advert in the local paper in Hull, the Bransholm estate where Dennis's parents and siblings lived. But nobody came forward at all. And I still bear a grudge about that now, even though Nicky's buried the hatchet. And he speaks to his cousins from Hull on Facebook, and his auntie and his uncle, Dennis's brother and sister. But I just resent them terribly because they didn't step in when we needed them. They just, if they saw the advert in the local paper, they ignored it. So Nicky had to do the whole thing, and it was horrible. And the only bit of humour, and I love Leroy Jones for this forever. We was miserable as fuck. We're all getting in the one hearse that we was allowed because obviously the social paid for the funeral. Yeah. So in them days, the social give you $3,000 for your funeral. You got one car, one bunch of flowers, and a burial or a cremation. Yeah. And that was it. So we're all piling into this one car. And it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful July day. Lovely. I'm going towards Agecroft Cemetery. That's where he was cremated. And Leroy said, "Nice day for a barbecue." And we just all burst out laughing. Yeah. And it was the kind of thing that Dennis would have appreciated. Yeah. Yeah. So it turned from being a really sad occasion to being, sad but bearable, because we kind of knew that Dennis would be laughing at that. Yeah. So we got cremated and we had to move on. But it was a tough year for our Nicky, that, because his little girlfriend, at the time, Marie, she'd had a baby premature, and the baby only lived 3 days. Oh. And his name was Anton. Oh. Pretty hell, that is a tough time. And then obviously, of course, my brother Stuart died. Oh shit. So is that the same year? More or less in the same 18-month stretch, yeah. Wow. 1989. 89. I've got Stuart's death certificate somewhere. I'm not sure if it was 85 or 89. Let me think. It would have been 85. Because Lewis was born in 84. Rico was born in 92. Lewis was born in 83. So yeah, it was about 1985. I didn't realise too much medication. It ruins your brain cells. Yeah. But yeah, it was a really tough year for Nicky. There was a lot for him to take. And when he actually brought out his first album, he had a song on there called "My Own Worst Enemy," and it's about Stuart. It's very poignant, and I think Nicky is really, really talented the way that he put that over. Yeah, and it was a nice memorial. Yeah. The thing is, when you really, really, really love someone, even though they might have died 20, 25 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago, it doesn't matter how long they've been gone. Because they're still, do you know what I mean? They're still in your heart. I do know what you mean, Carolann. I do know. They're still in your heart, and you think about them every day. I think about Dennis every day. Oh. There's not a day goes by when I don't think of something that reminds me of him, or a song might be on the radio. And the same for my brother. I can't listen to Many Rivers to Cross without breaking up, because that was our Stuart's funeral music. Yeah. And and it's just, what can you do? They're gone. But as long as you have a memory, they're never really gone, you know. And I am an atheist. I don't believe there is a God, but I do believe there's a higher power. There's a higher power than we. And all my dear people, all my missing loved ones are there within that higher power as part of this huge ball of energy that created everything that we've got. This huge existence and this presence. And I believe that your soul will return to that when you die. I don't believe in the afterlife. I don't believe in ghosts and spirits or any of that shit. I was brought up a spiritualist and I'm very sceptical. It's not something that I totally go for, but I do believe there's a higher power than we are, and everything returns to that. You can never really rid the earth of anything that's on it. No, because even if your person gets cremated and the ashes get scattered, they're still there. Their presence is still there in the dust, in the wind.
No, that's physically true.
You know,
that's absolutely physically true.
Yeah, exactly. And whatever is generated on this planet stays on this planet, but your soul and your essence will return to that.
Oh.
But we had some good times. When I was growing up in Moss Side, it was weird for me at first, because when I first came to Manchester, I was about 5 years old and I was a little southerner. I was an Essex girl. And I remember my mum taking me to Bellevue with my sister. And we had at the time one brother. That would be our Paul.
Yeah.
We went to Bellevue and I saw this guy. And I'll never forget, I thought he was made of coal. He was so black and shiny. I'd never seen a black person before. And I'm staring at him. And he had this, the African style thing with the big embroidery on the front and the big voluminous sleeves. He had one of them on. And I was looking at him and my mum's going, "Stop staring, don't be rude," like they do. And I was looking. And I just got down off my seat and I went over to the guy and I said, "Can I touch you?" And he went, "Yeah." So I touched his arm and I went, "Oh, you're warm." I said, "I thought you was made out of coal." Because in my little head, that was possible.
Yeah.
And he just started laughing and and my mum was like, "Get over it."
Oh, you've always had a fantastic imagination.
I just couldn't get over it.
Before you go, girl, you've still body swerved, right?
What do you want
me
to
wanting the gossip. Who's the guys? All these I went out with a few of them in the Reno. And I think, yeah, go on.
Well, when my relationship with Dennis finished,
I
was on the market for about, I don't know, a couple of years until I got with John. And I went out with them all.
Did you?
The only one I didn't go out with was Tommy. And that was because he was too young. He was about at least 5 or 6 years younger than me. And we were related.
Right.
So he came one day, Tom knocked on my door. And I think he'd got my address off either Dave Brennan or Marcus Lane, or it was the other ones, the Lamarr brothers.
Yeah.
Because by this time, Carolann was living with me.
Yeah.
So we were two single girls in the house.
Yeah.
With our Nicky. And we had loads of girlfriends that used to come over and stay. And it was like a bit of an open house, really.
I know, it was fabulous.
And Tom knocked on the door one day and I went, "Yeah?" He said, "We're related, you know." "Are we?" He said, "Yeah." "How?" Because I'm thinking, "Hey?" He said, "My cousin's just married your brother."
Oh, yeah.
That makes us cousins-in-law.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So I said, "Oh, right, okay then. Come in. Do you want in?"
No, it was one of those houses.
It was funny, man. It was funny.
It was one of those houses, and both you and Kaz just had pure style. The house had style, and all your sewing. Do you know, like all the things that you made and stuff like that.
We would do anything to make money. You know, me and Carolann swear, and Carmen as well, and Trisha.
Yeah.
And we all did it. We'd go to the market and get all the end of the roll off the fabric stalls, and then we'd either make patchwork cushions, which
I remember.
Yeah. Or we'd make the baby outfits.
Yeah.
And this is what I was saying to you the other day. You do not see a pram outside a door anymore.
Yeah.
When we was making our money, we used to make little smock tops because I had a device on my old sink.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, smocking.
Yeah. And it had kind of elasticated.
Yeah.
So we'd do these little baby dresses, little smock top, little frilly whatever, bloomers to match.
Yeah.
And a little mug cap.
Yeah.
And we'd make these little outfits, and we used to make little shorts for the boys and little shirts with them. We'd sew buttons on, but we'd put press studs.
Yeah.
So that the kids wasn't struggling with buttons. And the work was pretty damn good.
No, you was dead industrious.
You know what I mean?
You was like this different type of woman.
Yeah,
you know, like women that had been married and look mousy, and then there's this new kind of woman that looks all super stylish, making her own dough with a house full of people.
But you see, you could do that then.
Yeah.
You could make a little hustle then. So we'd just walk around with our little carrier bag.
Yeah.
Spot a house with a pram outside, go and knock on the door. I noticed you, babe, we've got some lovely summer clothes here. Would you be interested? Only £2 a set. And we'd make 10, 15 quid in a day, which was a lot of money then.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. And you know what? We started this style. Check this out. I don't know if you remember this.
Go on.
You know the gypsy skirts?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember your gypsy skirts. Go on.
Yeah. We used to sew the gypsy skirts, and what we did was we'd cut a strip of fabric like this, several strips in different designs, and the top one, and then we'd double up on the bottom one so it'd be more gathered, and then the third layer would be even more gathered, and then we'd get the cheap netting from the shop that used to make...
This is when I used to be envious. Go on.
The shop that used to make the communion outfits for the little girls always used to use this white stiff netting for the headpieces, and we just used to go and get all our offcuts, and we'd use it to
remember and play
stitch around the bottom. And then we had you see your little scarf on your table there. We had a couple of them that we'd got from the second-hand shop. We tied it around the waist.
I remember that. I'll tell you something else I remembered about both of you. You spray painted cowboy boots.
Oh yeah, the silver cowboy boots. Oh my God. Do you know what? When I first hooked up with John and we were just dating, he invited me to a Thin Lizzy concert up at the Apollo.
Yeah.
It was about 1976, 77, something like that. I'd only been seeing him a couple of months. And at the time he was playing away as well with me. He was already with someone and playing away with me. I kicked him to the curb as soon as I found out.
Right.
But anyway, I went to this Thin Lizzy concert, and he'd said to me, wear something nice.
Cheeky bastard.
I thought, right, okay then, I will. I had this dance costume. It was a full body lycra bodysuit. You remember the Green Goddess?
Oh no.
The exercise lady.
Yeah.
Always used to wear a green one.
Yeah.
Well, I had a blue one.
Yeah.
It was a pale, shiny blue. And I thought, right, I'll wear that. Because I was really slim in them days. I only weighed about 7 stone 2.
Yeah.
But I was very athletic.
Yeah.
So I put that on. I thought, yeah, that looks nice. What can I wear with it? Oh, I know. I had this purple lacy scarf with a fringe on it. I thought, right, that'll do. Skirt. Silver cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Got to have. Right? And then I thought, I need a belt. Now my son had a leather gun belt that one of my friends, Mike Varley, was a leather worker.
Yeah.
And he'd made this little gun belt for our Nicky. A little holster and everything, and the little bits where you put your bullets.
I used to think this was just outrageous and fabulous.
That'll do me.
Yeah.
And I thought, silver cowboy boots.
Oh, right. And
I need
the
a
holster.
gun.
Yeah.
I need a gun. I got Nicky's toy gun,
Yeah.
sprayed it silver to match the boots, stuck it in the holster. And that's how I went to the Thin Lizzy concert.
Wow. Looking all dynamite. You did. Yeah.
Everybody was looking at me. I didn't give a toss.
That's what I loved about you. That's what I loved
because, I'd spent my whole life from the age of 5 when we came to Manchester. As soon as my mum started breeding and had my 4 brothers, my job was to look after them. So my whole life had been spent looking after other people.
Yeah.
And I left home at 14 to get away from that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my younger brother, Jeff, he barely remembers any of the stuff I experienced because he was too young.
Yeah.
He was only a baby. I mean, I was 9 when Jeff was born. I'd already had 9 years of that.
Yeah.
And every 18 months there was a new brother. I can't remember my mum not being pregnant when Malcolm were together. And it was horrible because we were in and out of care. We experienced neglect. We didn't get fed properly. The only decent meal we got was our school dinner. And we were that poor that they had a programme at the school I attended where the poor kids could go to the church hall for a meal every day in the holidays because our parents couldn't afford to feed us. Because at the time, the national assistance, it wasn't a very well put together programme at the time because it was kind of new, They'd only had like social security, national assistance and welfare and stuff like that for the past, like, say, 20 years. So it was still quite new. Yeah. And I can remember watching a programme on the telly when I was 10. I had 2 brothers by this point, so I must have been 9 or 10. And the programme was called All Our Yesterdays by Brian Inglis. Yeah. And it was always 25 years ago today. Yeah. And it was bombings and people getting killed and concentration camps and all this other shit. Now you imagine if a programme came on the telly now, 25 years ago today, and it showed you those memories of us being at war. Yeah. 25 years is not a long time.
No, it's not.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, what is 25 years from today?
25 years ago today, I would have been about 40.
So it's not a lot.
It's not a long time ago. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was because I was very sensitive to atmosphere because living like we did, you had to be on your toes where the grown-ups were concerned. Otherwise, you'd either get sent to the shop, get a slap for something you didn't know you'd even done, or be abused in some other way, like, even if it was only get out of that chair, a grown-up comes in and sits in your seat, you have to get out the road. Do you know what I mean? Leave the room when they're talking, little pigs have big ears and all this. Children were very dumbed down at that time. Don't speak till you're spoken to and all that stuff.
You're saying it, then I'm just picturing it. Go on.
So it was very scary for me to imagine that that's why we have these open spaces between the houses, which we call a croft. Yeah. And it's always full of brick rubble.
Of course, because it was a bomb site.
Exactly. And where we lived on Cecil Street, right facing us, there was these, they must have been magnificent in the day when they were built. The white mansions. Oh, yeah. There was about, I think, 4 of them. And they were white. They had verandas and pillars and big windows. And they were falling down. Ah. They were falling down. Our house was bad enough because when we came out of care, my mum had to provide a home for us, and social services had said she wasn't getting us back until she could put a roof over our heads. Yeah. So we moved into Cecil Street, 107 Cecil Street, and the top half of the house was condemned because the roof was caved in.
Fucking hell, man.
But we had the basement, which was always flooded. Yeah. The first floor, Mum's bedroom, the kids' bedroom. The 4 boys lived in 1 bedroom, and right at the bottom we had the kitchen with the galley kitchen where the pantry was.
Yeah.
And then when you come in the front door, there's a corridor and the stairs go up. Right in the back room at the back, we had a lodger, an old trampy geezer who was deaf, called Deafy. Really. We hardly knew he was there. I mean, as children, we used to just go stampeding past his room. I didn't even know we had a lodger when we first moved in until I seen him in the toilet one morning and nearly fucking dropped a brick. I'm thinking, what? Mum, there's a bloke in the toilet. She said, yeah, it's all right. So, because our landlady lived next door and it was somebody to do with her.
Right.
So she said, yeah, you can have the
People
house.
lived in absolute squalor.
I'm telling you.
Didn't we?
Absolute squalor. Absolute squalor. And the thing was, when Malcolm got locked up for robbing off Ferrante's where he worked, he robbed Ferrante's with my mum's brother, Uncle Brian. And when he got locked up, my mum just went from one dickhead to another.
Right.
And life was horrible. It was horrible. She could barely function because she was a very dependent and needy kind of person. And no disrespect to me mum, because she's still alive, she's 83, and she's still the same. She's still dependent and needy. Do you know what I mean? But we decided a long time ago that at the time, our mums did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
And if there was a bloke on the scene and they were getting bossed around and slapped about, what could you do about it?
No, but I've got to go in a minute. I've got to end here with this though. That's the difference that your type of woman made to me.
Yeah.
Because you had changed that somehow. I don't know how the fuck you did it, but you thought differently.
Yeah. I decided that I was not going to be like my mum.
And
I was never going to be a drinker.
Yeah.
Because I seen how it made her go.
Yeah.
I was never going to be a pillhead.
Yeah.
Because I saw how my mum went on when she worked at the union, and she was having parties at our house every night after work. Nikki DaCosta, Ava the Raver, flipping half the transvestites from town. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Loads of people around the house every night. And I was like, no, I'm never going to do that, so I never did.
Yeah, but not just what you're not going to do, though. Not just in the negative, in the absolute positive of what you did do.
Because I did exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
I wasn't needy. I wasn't dependent. I wouldn't let a guy take the piss. Like my mum, all the guys in her life, even her own brothers, took the fucking piss majorly. I would never allow a guy to slap me around. The only person who did and got away with it was our Lewis's dad. And the only reason he got away with it was because my 4 brothers wanted to kill him. And I wouldn't let them because he's Lewis's dad. But I tolerated it. Every now and again he'd flare up and we'd end up having a massive fight and I'd end up getting a dig. But I just thought, you know what? I've given it my best shot. I give you a good 10 years of my life. Our son is of an age now where he does not need to see your shit attitude. Therefore, I'm off. I'll see you later. So I left. I was 39 when I left. And I reasoned it out to myself and I thought, right, on the surface, we've got job, each car, each lovely detached house in Cholton, beautiful grounds and all that. John worked really hard to get that, which I appreciated, but he was not a sharing person. This is mine. It's not yours, it's mine. You're just here because I'm letting you be here. Wow. I couldn't live with that for that long. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it didn't matter what input I contributed. It was always his, not ours. And I'm not like that. I couldn't do that. So I left. I thought, you've been with him since you were 29. I had Lewis when I was 30. I'm going to be 40 next birthday. Do I really want this shit for another 10 years? I fucking think not. So I left. Oh, we had a fucking great escape. It was ace. I'll have to tell you about it.
You'll have to tell me another day. I have to go.
Oh, the great escape. Oh, my word. But yeah, and I just did everything that my mum didn't do.
Yeah.
I defended myself. I didn't stand for any shit.
In my little mind, looking at you, because I don't know how much older. About 6 years, 7 years.
About 6.
Yeah. Because that's a huge difference. When you're 16, I'm 10.
Yeah.
And when, like, you came round our way and you've got, like, you know, like, your outfits and everything, right, and you're going to the Reno and all that, you know, before we did, it's like, I don't know, you just mesmerised me. You know, like,
I remember seeing you there. It was one time when Carolann and Danny was on a break.
Yeah.
And Danny was going out with that black girl with big lips. He used to call her electric lips. It was so funny. And I said to Carolann one night, fucking hell, Danny's over there with that girl. And she went, doesn't matter. He knows where I live.
Oh.
And she was living with me at the time. And I swear down, give him 3-4 weeks, and he was back knocking on the door. And eventually, they moved out and got a flat in that block of flats, Medlock Court.
I lived there with them.
Yeah. So, yeah. And she was having Dan Jr. at the time, and that was when she moved out. And to be honest, I missed her when she went.
No, I bet you did, because it was a proper dual act.
Yeah, we'd lived together a long time.
Yeah. You hadn't,
You know, we'd lived together for at least 5 years, if not longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since Carolann was like 16, 17.